Hi there. I am here with my sister, Tracie Guy Decker. And yes, she does use a hyphen.
And I'm here with my sister, Emily Guy Birkin, who does not use a hyphen.
And together we are doing Lightbringers, where we illuminate the deeper meaning of the crime-solving devil TV show. And yes, we are overthinking it.
So much. So today we're going to overthink season 3, episodes 13 and 14. So 313 and 314, Till Death Do Us Part, and My Brother's Keeper.
Yes.
I'm so excited for these two. Mainly the first one.
Yeah. The second one, actually, I it's another one I don't revisit often, but I enjoyed.
Had some good moments. Yeah. But Till Death Do Us Part is one of my favorites of the whole series. I mean, there's just something so wonderfully endearing about Lucifer as half of the gay couple with Pierce, Mark, and Luke as they are, which, since I overthought names in our last episode, those stuck out to me, that those two evangelist names overlaying on the devil and the first murderer. I don't know. There was something really resonant and irreverent, but in a reverent sort of way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed that.
So, well, I wanted to get to Till Death Do Us Part has my favorite fight scene, I think, of the entire series. And that's the you can't just go in there and say, "Hello, drug dealers."
I would never.
And then he says it in Korean.
That actually, I paid quite close attention to that scene as well, because though we see Lucifer's prowess as a fighter many times, we never see it choreographed so beautifully.
Yes.
And I mean, it was a dance. It was gorgeous. That sequence of choreography, you know, with everything from them hitting one another to he knocks one dude in the face with, as he I don't know how, ejects the cartridge from the firearm. That was
what's cool is he doesn't use any firearms.
He uses them as projectiles, but never as firearms.
And then when he breaks into the one room where they're actually doing karaoke, and the K-pop Lucifer song gets overlaid by the whatever it is they're singing, which I think is "Life is a Highway." I was trying to figure out what song that was.
Yeah, and actually even the choreography of the head dude, who are you trying to help? And then the sort of pan to the smiling face, but at exactly the same spot. The cinematography was just really enjoyable.
It's well done. Very, very well done.
Really enjoyable.
Yeah. So, do we want to talk about the meat of the story of Till Death Do Us Part?
Do you?
Well, I mean, there's aspects to it that I think are interesting. Okay, what it brought up for me is a late season X-Files episode called Arcadia, which is basically the same story, where Mulder and Scully go undercover as a married couple in this overly ridiculous HOA suburbia, and it turns out it's a monster, because of course it is, because it's the X-Files. But they do almost the exact same thing, where they're pretending, and Mulder's taking it more seriously than Scully is, and is making jokes and stuff like that. And then they know that the monster is all about maintaining the HOA standards, and so he goes out, he puts a flamingo on his front yard, but then also does it keeps escalating to try to get the thing to attack. So I was thinking I'm sure the writer's room had seen that. And the thing is, it's the conversation about suburbia and what that does to people is I think not an uncommon one. So what I appreciate that, of course, that I mean, for one thing, that we have it be a same-sex couple here, and the discomfort is not so much about the sexuality, but just about Pierce being like, I am closed off. I do not want to get to know anybody. Stop trying. And that I really appreciate that. And then the final scene where they like he's actually moving the nachos so that they
won't fall in the salsa won't drip in the macaroni. That exchange, which became very public of their, like, that was so also like just well written and well executed. Even like Tom Welling's wooden delivery kind of works.
That
whole thing I really liked. In fact, I kind of wish that the showrunners had pushed it a little harder so that the love triangle develops would have been a true triangle with all three lines, because I think it's believable. I mean, they make the point that each of them understands the other's loneliness in a way that no one else can. And we've seen that Lucifer is a very sexual being. Like, it just makes sense to me that there would be sexual tension between those two men. I wish the writers had pushed it further and actually made it a true possible, like, love interest. I mean, not partner, but I don't know. I feel like it was
a missed opportunity.
It feels like it was ripe for some really interesting dynamics to be explored, especially in a triangle that's a true triangle, because love triangles that we get in media are actually only these. They're not triangles, because that final line is almost never, it's always like, the one woman has two possible partners, or the one man has two possible partners, but not that all, like all of the possible pairings are options. Like, I think that would be really fascinating to see the dynamics and the jealousy and I just think that could be really, really interesting.
Well, even just seeing Chloe's reaction when Lucifer kisses him.
She's
like, she sees it on the camera and she's like, I gotta see this.
She has to see it in real life. And her reaction to she puts the photo face down. So she's not looking at them hugging,
and I'm like, when did they have that photo shoot? I mean, I know that this is, Lucifer does not cut any corners. I mean, this is like, what are you doing? Paper plates? We're not savages.
Is there china in the cupboard? It was just so delightful. It was just truly delightful.
Well, and then, just also to your point, like with Pierce, I mean, as Cain, he's thousands of years old. I have no doubt that he has like, all right, I'll explore other types of sexuality now.
Right? I cannot believe that he's 5,000 years old and is like disgusted by.
Well, I mean, and he says in the second episode that we watched, he says to Amenadiel, like, not only do I have to watch everything I love turn to dust, but it's boring. Like,
I've been everywhere. I've tasted everything.
I've tasted everything. I've done everything. And so like, I truly believe
I think that these showrunners could have had some really
interesting
stuff. Although I think they were still on Fox.
They were
in season 3. So I guess it makes sense that they didn't, because Fox maybe wouldn't have.
Fox probably would not.
They would have put the kibosh on that. So that's interesting. That's an interesting thing.
But this is the most likable I find Pierce in that episode.
In the second episode, I found him less so, honestly. Like in Til Death Do Us part, I was like, especially when they end. Is it when they end? What that conversation when they say you don't want to be lonely. Neither of them wants to be lonely anymore. I felt a real swell of pathos for him. And then in My Brother's Keeper, the scene in Lux when he provokes Amenadiel to fight him, he doesn't give a shit about anybody else, which I guess is in line with the character as someone who's they're all going to die anyway. What difference does it make if I shorten their lives?
Yeah.
And also that's hard for me as a viewer to be like, you're my guy, like.
Well, and I feel that the writers definitely wanted us to be somewhat ambivalent about him. Like they don't want us to be like, we love this guy.
Yeah, agreed. Because we know how it's going to have to end.
Yeah. But I will say in that second episode, when he says to Amenadiel, like, it's hard to watch because, Amenadiel is a protagonist and we have come to love him. But, like, there are two people in here who've tried to kill their brother.
Mm-hmm.
And
I did it myself, at least.
I did it myself, at least.
Agreed. And it's such a different thing from the first humans to these angels, because even Lucifer's death wasn't going to be a death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't going to be an end of his existence.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And even though that was also true of Abel,
but Cain didn't know it when he killed him.
Knowing that when he killed him. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it's not that I liked it or I found it sympathetic. There was something, how when you read something where like a bad guy gets what they've been looking for and it's satisfying in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something very satisfying about that when he's like, oh yeah, the look on your face, that's what I've been going for. That feels good. Mm-hmm. And I was I felt that it was really well done. And I think part of what I'm saying, this is when I've most liked Tom Welling's portrayal.
Delivery. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hear that. I do.
So, and I'll say that the fight scene choreographed between Amenadiel and Pierce is also quite good.
Yeah, that was intense. It was interesting too, as a very newbie karateka. Like at one point, Cain says, your Hapkido is good. How's your, what, he names another style. And he says, it's better than yours, and like, so seeing that they weren't just like kind of swinging, there was actually some martial arts style behind it, with intention from the showrunners, which I appreciated.
Yeah. So another little joke in there, because Tom Welling played Clark Kent in Smallville.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So that's why, like, everyone has a kryptonite.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
So if you go back and look at pictures of him as, because he played him, like you see him become, I never watched it, but was aware of it, and apparently he, like, you don't see him as Superman until the very last moment of like season 7, which is the last season, something like that. Yeah, if you go back and look at pictures of Tom Welling from then, and not that he's not still quite handsome, but it's just like, holy cow, how is that allowed? That's funny. So yes.
Well, speaking of Welling, and like, so I'm thinking, and the chemistry between Welling and Ellis, the two Toms, and the remaining lack of chemistry. I mean, like, even like when Chloe says, just so I'm not crazy, we had a moment, didn't we? And he says, yeah, it was a moment. And I'm thinking, I got to go back and look at that, because I don't remember a moment. There was no moment. There was zero chemistry between these two people. They're just like, hi, I'm me. Oh, I'm the other. Like, they're just both so wooden, and there's just nothing.
Well, but like the thing, like, I think it's because Lauren German is at her best when she is exasperated. And so like I remember when I first started watching the show and I was telling Mom about it, I was just like, oh my God, Mom, you have to see this. And I was telling her, like, Lucifer, and he can charm anyone, blah, 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 blah. But for some reason he had like can't charm this police detective. And she just has so over it. And like, that was what I loved, was her like, oh, this again. And so like a lot of their, like, the chemistry with Ellis is that, like, I just, when they're talking about the K-pop and she's like just rolling her eyes at him and going like, you can't do that and all of that.
There's at least something. There's a whole lot of nothing. There's no feeling, I feel like.
And that's
actually the K-pop that reminds me. Sorry. Maybe I should save it for fluff, but the moment when they're in Pierce's office and they say it's not, and Ellis is like, it's not ecstasy, actually, it's a kind of Adderall.
Like it goes down smooth.
Did your partner just admit to snorting evidence? The only thing I will admit to is being very focused on this case. I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud at the very focused on this case. I just thought that was, anyway, sorry. That was like,
that was excellent.
Parentheses.
Yeah.
In the conversation about, but I think you're exactly right. Because the moments when they'll come later, but the moments in like season 4, when I will be the least satisfied with German's performance, it's because she's trying to be like earnest and heartfelt. Mm-hmm. And I don't think she just, I don't know if it's, they don't write it for her well, or if she doesn't feel it, but it just doesn't mesh. Mm-hmm, and so I think you're exactly right. Like German gets and delivers this again beautifully in like a really charming and like believable way.
Yeah.
But other emotions, somehow I don't believe in her. I think that's so, and I expect it's a little bit of the actor and a little bit of the writer not being able to write for their actor.
Yeah.
Like knowing what her strengths are and stuff. But I think that's an interesting point about what German does do well.
So I do the crime. I do want to talk about the crime a little bit well, actually in both episodes, but in Til Death Do Us Part. So that when we find out that it's the wife of that couple, where she's sure he's going to leave her because he's lost all this weight and he's out all hours
all
of the night.
Time, and
it's just like, you love each other so much, but you don't talk to each other.
Well, I feel like that actually is the punchline of like at least 50% of the episodes. Like if there is a couple involved, like that will be like how many of these crimes wouldn't have happened if the two people just spoke to one another?
Yeah.
It'd just be like, what's happening to us? I'm afraid are you cheating? I'm afraid you're cheating.
Yeah.
I know that's a hard thing to say, but like, why is it easier to kill your potential people than have that conversation?
Okay. So to be fair, the death, it sounded like it was an accident. And I believe her. Like she was not a cold-blooded killer. She put her in the wood chipper. That? Like, I can't imagine I panicked and put her in the wood chipper. Like I can imagine I panicked and ran
instead of calling 911.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I don't get that. And then the husband's plan didn't seem to be much of anything, because wouldn't he be like, all right, let's go to Mexico. Instead of let's go to the party
where I think there are cops trying to find the killer, who I know is you.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess like until he saw the signing the book, he might not have realized. But at that point, when he saw like, oh, that's what's going on.
So he grabbed the shivers. Stay back.
Yeah. So, and that's the not talking to each other, that aspect, I feel like now some of that is just writing, because like that's how you create conflict, because if people talk to each other, there would be no conflict in a lot of cases. But some of that is also like, I mean, everything's about Lucifer, and you know, the Lucifer and Pierce are not talking, so I don't know. I just like that one really got me, because it was just like, you've been together your entire lives. Like, they're in their 40s, and they've been together since they were 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Like, you can't talk to each other. I mean, tell me you haven't looked for each other's hemorrhoids. I mean, seriously, like, you know each other really well.
Yeah.
So, which, and I know like insecurities weird and depression's weird and mental illness is weird and all of that, and will do things to whisper in your ear. And then like the fact that he's like, your lawn's too long.
Yeah. And can we talk about when in the garage in the middle of the night, when Pierce comes out and it's like, it's 4 a.m. and he unplugs the grinder. It was a trumpet in the vise. Like, I mean, what the hell? Like, I don't know.
It's just whatever's laying around, maybe.
I guess a trumpet. Do you have a trumpet lying around? Because I don't.
No. I mean, Lucifer is musical. Maybe he never managed to master this trumpet and he was pissed about it.
I don't know. It just was like, I mean, I guess you're right. He was just supposed to be like just making a lot of noise and whatever, but I don't know.
So
I'm overthinking it, and I have zero. There's nothing.
Nowhere to go with that.
And I'm unsatisfied with no deeper meaning.
I will say,
trumpet in a vise.
It's very weird to me that he had scantily clad women
hanging out with him,
and like that's what Lucifer would do. Was that what Luke would do?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, wouldn't he have like scantily clad twinks? Men? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's a very good point.
And like, you know, I guess if he's thinking like of the things that are going to piss off, I mean, if he's doing it strategically, that considering the way the two like adolescent boys like slept,
I guess. Although I think that actually a bunch of scantily clad boys would have upset the neighbors more.
Yeah. If there's the
if we're going to talk about strategy.
True. Very true. And like, granted, it was on Fox. They're like, we need a certain number of tits and asses per episode.
Right. You're below your quota.
All right. We'll put 4.
Where's
in
the
this
girl in the
episode,
bikini?
So we'll be ahead for the next 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Although I like this, I should say this for fluff, but he fills out an American flag Speedo quite nicely. And since we're recording this right before the 4th of July,
right? Happy Independence Day.
or whatever.
So,
well, let's talk about My Brother's Keeper.
Okay.
And J. Lopez and El Stupido.
Yeah. Being hit with his sister's shoe.
He's really not that bright.
Jay.
It's like clearly Ella got the brains in the family.
Yeah.
Because the lies are stupid. Signing in under the name Michael Knight. I mean, all you got to do is write John Smith. No one will find you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And even his attempt to protect her when he's being held at gunpoint by the actual killer,
right?
Saying like, "Get away, crazy lady who I don't know." Yeah, that's gonna work.
Yeah. What was really interesting in that was seeing Ella's like forensic work when she was like, but this is the angle. And then she like when she actually held up her left hand right next to the burn mark on the lampshade, like it was kind of kitchen table logic, but it really like it really worked. Like having Amy Garcia sort of point with her left hand right next to that burn mark on the lampshade. I was like, oh yeah, she's right. It wouldn't have, like that worked for the viewer to believe that Ella was right and there was a third. So there was like this back and forth where Chloe thinks that but because of that, for me at least, I never thought that Jay was in fact the trigger man because of Ella's demonstration. So I thought that was kind of interesting to have that fairly simplistic kind of forensic moments that like was exceedingly convincing for me.
It's the To Kill a Mockingbird Like
you're right. It's exactly the To Kill a Mockingbird. Yep.
Can't do it because of left-handed, you know. So and which I always find it interesting when I see that, because I can remember you telling me that law schools actually used To Kill a Mockingbird for examples of how to present a case. It was you who told me that, wasn't it?
Was it?
I feel like it was.
I mean, I know it won the Silver Gavel Award the first year we had one at the first year the American Bar Association gave a Silver Gavel Award.
Yeah. So and I remember it being like thinking like that's really interesting, and I think it's clear that that Harper Lee has knowledge of the law and court system and all of that, but also how very, very convenient it was that Tom Robinson was left-handed and his right was mangled.
Right.
And the same thing with this, just like very convenient that the trigger man was left-handed, considering it's only 10% of the population.
Is it that little?
I think it's relatively small, although it is also one of those, it's hard to tell because of how long lefties were discouraged from using their left hands. So
more than one person who's very close in my life is left-handed. So in my mind, it's not, the proportion is higher, but
yeah,
maybe
I know no lefties.
Oh, I work very closely with at least two. So
okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I know some, but yeah, none close by. So
yeah.
Anyway, it would be interesting if it were really 50-50, 50% of the population was left-handed and 50 was right-handed.
Definitely not that high.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
So
I thought that was interesting, that sort of little demonstration and how convincing that was for me as a viewer. Which is, I mean, I've been trained well how to watch TV shows. So
yeah. Well, and especially thinking about what we've talked about with propaganda.
Yep.
That even Ella doesn't trust the police. And knowing how that's going to go with her brother. It's never said, and I don't know if it's intended, but the fact that Ella and her brother are not white, if that has any aspect to it.
I mean, yeah, they never mentioned that, but they do say, I mean, Lucifer says to Chloe at the end, if a different cop had been working the case, he'd be in jail or something like that. I don't remember the exact words, but he does indicate that it very easily would have gone a different way.
Yeah.
Lucifer says that out loud.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, is it true that Maze is not going to be in trouble? She's bounty hunting. Okay. She was protecting someone. Okay. She murdered somebody. Feel like there'd be some paperwork.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, it's not up to Chloe. It's not like she's the principal and can just be like, I know you meant well, sweetie. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was a weird choice too. Like, I mean, I know we're working on humanizing Maze throughout this season, but it's a weird episode for humanizing Maze, right? Like, she gets Ella's name wrong again and again and again. Like, it's on purpose at this point. I don't know.
Well, and she is, I mean, like when we first see her that episode,
she's playing with Trixie. I mean, not playing, she's training with Trixie. Yeah.
And telling her, like, cut their Achilles tendons, because if they can't run, they can't betray you.
Right.
And so it's clear that she's going through some stuff.
Yeah.
And then, like, so again, this is me overthinking it, but they do leave a kind of a trail of breadcrumbs for you, where she is very much affected by the fact that Ella is saying family is there for each other.
Yeah.
And she's realizing she doesn't have
family.
family like that.
Yeah.
But that, that final, she meant that knife throw. And you're my sister now.
Yeah.
You know? And it's Lucifer, how he reacts to Jay at the end is interesting as well. In that he's protecting Ella in a way that it would not have occurred to him, I think 2 seasons ago.
I think that's true. The showrunners have us see him be emotionally affected by their embrace at the end of the ordeal when the bad guy is dead. Lucifer sees Ella and Jay hugging, and we see, I mean, this is another one of Ellis's beautiful, completely nonverbal performances, where we see Lucifer really kind of, it's both confusion and envy and, pathos.
I might need to just hold this up or you might just hear my children in the background.
I mean,
There's
we are
thousands of them. Thousands. I have so many children. I tell them that and they say, there's only 2 of us. I'm like, there's so many of you. So yeah, there's that. And then that leads directly into his kind of confrontation with Amenadiel at the end, which again is about Amenadiel fundamentally misunderstanding Lucifer while at the same time trying to protect him. Because he says, like, you're going to bring Father's wrath down on you. Like, do you not get that that's the point?
Right.
Like, how are you not getting that that's what I want?
But true. And I think that final moment, like, you're just in my way, well, then I'm going to be in your way, is actually like, I love you.
Yeah, that's very loving. Even though that's not
at all what Lucifer wants to hear.
Yeah.
But Woodside's delivery makes that very clear, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And I have to say also, I've always admired Woodside as an actor, but the look on his face that Pierce says that's what it feels good. It's like, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Another nonverbal performance.
Excellent nonverbal performance. Yeah. So, one other thing, it was really kind of cruel of Lucifer, but it also kind of fits that he recommended to Charlotte that she go to Linda without giving Linda a heads up first.
Telling Linda it was going to happen. Oh my God. Well, what it's also idiot.
I have to say though, like, there's an intake process
before she's sitting on the couch.
Yeah. And like, maybe Linda didn't know the goddess, her name. I was like, okay, Charlotte Richards, but that seems unlikely. Yeah.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah. So, but I like the first time I watched it, I was just like, how did he not tell her? And is there no other therapist in LA?
That was my first thought. When you see Charlotte, you see Trisha Helfer sitting on the couch and you realize it's her couch. Cause it's pretty, I mean, the stuff on the wall is like, I was like, this is Linda's couch. She's the only therapist in the whole city. I mean, it's a city of like a bazillion people.
Yeah.
And everybody's in therapy in LA, right?
Everyone's in therapy in LA.
I would think that there would be a really high per capita number of therapists there. Yeah. It would have been more believable if, when she says you have to leave, if she had said, I thought I could do this, but I can't.
Yeah.
Or something to indicate that like she's changed her mind, not like that this is new information.
Like she's been completely blindsided by it.
Bamboozled by it. I agree. That was a little bit of a stretch. Yeah. And I appreciated the arc with Linda that they were getting to. So I'm glad they did it. But I think it could have been handled with greater nuance than, he sent her and didn't sent Charlotte and didn't tell
Yeah.
Linda.
Well, I mean, and that does fit with Lucifer that he would do that.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it does, but it doesn't fit that Dr. Linda Martin would not recognize Charlotte Richards' name. That does not fit in my mind. Yeah. But I think it was an interesting arc to have, because like, as like Linda is us, right? Like she does the emotions and the scared and the like, what about Hitler? And like all the things that like, and so that kind of like, just deer in the headlights traumatization from what had happened to her, and even like pricking Charlotte's hand at the end.
To be honest, now granted, Charlotte is, I mean, she's supposed to be in her 40s and has never been to therapy, but that would be enough for me to be like, I'm finding a different therapist for me. I mean, the fact that she shows up at her office is already like
stalkery.
Not okay.
I came here to apologize. Is your phone broken?
Yeah. But so, but okay, Charlotte's never been to therapy before, and she's really worried that she's so broken that no one will talk to her. So like, okay, but still, that's kind of a red flag that your potential therapist does that
with a thumbtack off of your own desk. Yeah. All right. Well, look at that. We've already like overthunk quite a bit.
Yes.
I am looking at the time and thinking maybe we should transition into fluff, unless you have another juicy bit.
Maze and the potential threesome.
Oh God, that was weird. Like Dan's like, oh no. I mean, unless you're into it. which is pretty much every man I've ever met.
I like that seems but it's another one that's so uncomfortable.
Well, that whole little mini arc of Maze being attracted to Charlotte was pretty uncomfortable. Like when she was, I mean, actually all of it, from the dude going, it's Axe body spray, to like Leslie Ann Brandt's like face, like in Tracie Helfer's sternum. Like that was pretty uncomfortable.
I have to say, so I was wondering, this might belong in fluff, but so seeing Tom Ellis and Tom Welling next to each other, they're both 6'4", and then seeing how short Dan looks next to them, and he's like 6 foot, like he's not a small guy, and so I'm like, would I look like a hobbit next to them?
Yes, you would. That's why Amy Garcia is never next to all of them at once.
Well, and if you noticed, her shoes always like their platforms this thick.
I think Rachel Harris is not too tall either.
She's 5'1".
Yeah.
So
we
she's always wearing high spike heels too.
Well, and we never see her standing next to anyone. She's always seated.
Yeah.
So,
and I was thinking that with Trisha,
she's 6 feet tall, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking that with Tracie Helfer, and then she also wears heels.
Yeah.
But Tracie Helfer next to Leslie Ann Brandt, and like in the sternum thing. So it was just like, well, that's, I don't know, maybe that's a convenient height to be. I don't know.
I mean, what's really interesting is that Charlotte wasn't like not into it. Like she wasn't into it, but she also was like not into it. Yeah. She was a little disappointed when Maze was like, never mind.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? Where are you going? I thought I was delectable.
That's more emotional than the sexual part of it. It's just like, I just shared my deepest, darkest secret with you.
Yeah, like, but she did just share her deepest, darkest secret with this like strange woman who's like coming onto her real hard and like sniffing her. It's not the person I'm gonna share my deepest, darkest secret with. I mean, Leslie Ann, if you want to come sniff me, I'm willing to try. But
willing to prove that theory wrong. Well, no, I'm thinking like it's kind of like how you can spill your heart out to the person sitting next to you on the airplane who you never will see again.
Yeah. Because you'll never see them again.
You'll never see them again.
Yeah. But the way it was written and the way that they played it was like, there's a connection that I don't want to lose now.
Yeah.
Which what you're talking about, actually, there's a connection that I want to lose because I just told you my darkest secret.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever see you again.
That's a good point.
So, anyway, I don't know, that whole thing was just weird and interesting. Like not bad weird, just sometimes there are story arcs that I'm like, oh yeah, I might have written it kind of like that. I would never have written that. Like
Never
that would
occurred to me.
It wouldn't have occurred to me to write that.
Yeah.
That she smells like hell, and that nostalgia is somehow arousing until Maze realizes what it is, and then she wants nothing to do with it. Yeah, that would never have occurred to me to write that.
Okay, I also have to say, don't you think hell would smell a little bit like Axe body spray? Just a little.
We cannot top that. I think that's the end of the show.
Do I win the internet this week?
You win. All right, folks. There's no place left to go at this point. So I'm gonna call it.
We don't overthink it enough.
We have overthink it enough. We will see you next week.